what is good chicken broth? Well, by Johnny, that's what we're doing today. Let's get to it. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my modern homestead. My name is Janet, just in case you're new here and you don't already know. And this morning, I just thought we would sit down and have a little chit-chat for just a second. Y'all, really. Sometimes you just have to say, bless your heart. Bless your heart. And sometimes you have to be nice about it. And try your best not to be snarky. I mean, really. You know, when I was growing up, Mama always said, if you don't have anything nice to say, just don't say anything at all. You don't have to, really. It won't hurt you and it won't hurt anybody else just to move on your merry way without saying a thing. You know what? You usually forget about it. There's a lot more in life to worry about. You can just go on by that one little thing that's bothering you. And I've kind of found that YouTube is that way. If there's something you don't like, y'all don't have to sit there and watch it. If you don't like me, you don't have to sit and watch me. If I don't like somebody else, I don't have to sit and watch them. But you know what? Being a YouTube creator, here's one thing I've realized. A lot of people put a lot of work into videos. And even if I don't like what they're saying, I don't agree with what they're saying, I don't attack what they're doing. Whether it's right or wrong, or whether I like it or not, they put effort into it, and who am I to tear them down and destroy it? Not me. I just don't think that's right. I don't think that's the way it should be, and I think this world would be a lot prettier place if we didn't act that way. So a lot of times I had to say, bless your heart. If you've been around a while, especially since the beginning, my videos, y'all, they weren't pretty, they weren't great. They were fun. I had fun learning. I still have a lot to learn. I still watch other YouTubers because I still have a lot to learn. But I just wanted to address this one little thing. Just be nice. Nobody's been horrible or terrible to me, but it's very common on YouTube. People are some keyboard cowboys wearing that nice pretty black hat. If you don't know a lot about history, go check out what cowboys wore black hats and what cowboys wore white hats. And we got a lot of black hat keyboard cowboys around here in this world today. But y'all, here's the thing. I wanted to read something to you because I have to work on it and preach to myself a lot. A soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger. The tongue of the wise useth knowledge aright, but the mouth of fools poureth out foolishness. And if we move on down in chapter 15 of Proverbs, in verse 23, it says, a man hath joy by the answer of his mouth, and a word spoken in due season, how good it is. And if scriptures don't happen to be your thing, here's a quote I found. Maturity is working through your trauma and not using it as a never-ending excuse for poor behavior. Have you ever had anybody, even if they didn't like what you were doing, but they came alongside you and they used words wisely and kindly? Do you remember what it did for you? And so, y'all, that's how I kind of try to run my channel. If somebody is ugly, I try to be quiet for a little while. I had to stop and think, God, how in the world do I answer this person and still be nice when I don't want to all the time? But I try, y'all. But anyway, let's move on. 5 minutes of that nonsense is enough, isn't it? Bless your hearts. So, today I want to talk about chicken broth because in one of my videos, Chicken and Rice, there seems to be a lot of controversy over water you use to boil chicken breast. I have to use the phrase chicken chest pieces because some people can't handle the correct anatomical word. Isn't that silly, y'all? Anyway, if you take chicken breast and you boil them in water for 5 minutes, is that good chicken broth? Is that good chicken stock? Look up here. You can check out what I'm talking about in that video. Wow. Sometimes you just gotta say, bless your heart. So I want to know, what do you think? Is chicken boiled in water for 5 minutes, just chicken breast, nothing else in the water, just chicken breast for 5 minutes? Is that good chicken broth or chicken stock? Y'all, my channel is all about teaching and learning and sharing and inspiring and enjoying a peaceful respite from this crazy, nutty world. So I'm going to be nice and I'm going to be kind. I just want to ask, am I crazy? Oh, never mind. Don't answer that question. Never mind. Forget I asked it. So if we want to do any of that, we've got to go get the chicken out of the freezer and get busy. Let's go. Okay, so last year when we processed our chickens, I kept the carcasses. We cut off the legs and thighs and breasts and wings and all that good stuff. But y'all, this is valuable stuff. This is what makes your chicken broth and your chicken stock magic. This is where it happens. You still have the skin, the bones, some of the meat, some of the fat, and this is where your flavor comes from. Well, a lot of the flavor, but we're going to get to that in a minute. Let's go ahead and put these in the roaster. I haven't used this roaster since we moved. It was so dusty. So I'm going to put these in here. And then I'll show you what else we're going to add to it. We're going to put in some celery. Now I had 2 onions. I just halved them. Put those in. And this is going to be strained, so if you've got little bits of the peel on, no worries. And I had a handful of garlic cloves that were fresh, but I've got some that's dehydrated. I'm going to put in just a little bit. Ooh, that's strong. That dehydrated garlic, isn't that pretty? But I also have some dehydrated carrots. I didn't have any fresh carrots, so we're going to sprinkle some of those in. And I went out back to raised beds and I got some herbs. Now I've never put basil in mine, so we're experimenting today. And I went out front to my bay leaf tree and I got 4 bay leaves. We got some rosemary. And some thyme. And I've already rinsed all of this, so it's fine. And that's it, other than a little bit more basil in there. Alright, now all we need to do is get water in this. I'm not going to fill it all the way up, but just until it just about covers the chicken. Before we get that water in there, let's add the salt. And speaking of salt, if you don't have all these vegetables, or if you don't want all these vegetables, that's not a problem. Just put in your chicken and put in salt, and if you want it, pepper, and that will be just fine. But make sure you salt it well enough or you'll end up with water that tastes like dishwater, and that you don't want. Right. And we go with the water. Kind of washing the stuff off the top of the chicken so that it's down in the water. It becomes flavor for the broth and not just sitting on top of the chicken. All right, y'all. Now we've got all the water in there. I'm going to turn this up to about 350 for an hour or so, and then I'll cut it down to probably about 300. And we're going to just let this cook all day long, and that way you'll draw out all that good stuff out of the chicken, and you'll get that collagen out of there, and y'all, this makes the best broth. So anyway, we're done. Let's go enjoy the day. We'll let this thing do its thing while we do our thing. Y'all, I wish y'all could be in my house right now. Woo, this thing's dripping everywhere. Chicken is all thawed out. It's been about, I don't know, 3.5, 4 hours. If that long, I don't really know what time I started. But I'm going to move this chicken around and get it all down in the water. Make sure these herbs are down in the water. Yum, this smells so good. I want to eat it right now. Doesn't that look good? So we'll just let it keep going. I actually haven't turned it down. I'm going to leave it right here for a while to see what happens. Okie dokie, y'all, let's take a look. Yum. Okay, so I don't know how to tell you how long to cook yours or how to tell you it's done, other than if when you're turning this and your bones are soft and they're starting to crush when you squeeze it, it's done. So what I'm going to do at this point is turn this off, and then we are going to let this cool. And when it's cooled down some, I'm going to take all the chicken out. And if I have time tonight, because it's already, I think it's 4 o'clock, I'm not sure. But if this cools down and I have time, I am going to jar it up and can it so that we can have it later. Now, if you don't have a canner, that's okay. Just take this and freeze it in whatever size serving you want. 1 cup, 2 cup, 3 cup, 4 cup, whatever's good for you. Y'all, yum. One little thing I am going to do, because I did taste it, and it does need more salt. I figured it would. So we're going to add some salt, but I also want to add a little bit of turmeric. Not only is this going to give it flavor, but turmeric is great for you, but it gives it a, what did I say? Not only is turmeric good for you, it gives it a great flavor and a great color. Now when I cook with my broth, I do usually add more turmeric to it, but just to can it and to give it a little bit of flavor, I don't need that much. And one more thing, let's add just a little bit of paprika. Guess it may be a teaspoon, 2 teaspoons. Again, not a lot, just a little. Oops. Let's just kind of mix that in. Now the turmeric is going to give it a funny yellow color. That doesn't bother me. If it bothers you, then of course it's your kitchen. You certainly don't have to do it. I just like it in mine. So we're just going to let this sit here. Oops, did y'all see that? These bones just crush. You can cook it even longer if you want to, but see, that bone just came right off. Okay, I'll be back in a little bit. Whew, we got so much going on in this kitchen. I just finished supper using the peach barbecue sauce that we made. Y'all, it was so good. So smoky, so sweet. Anyway, this has cooled a lot, not completely. You can still see there's a lot of heat coming off of it. But we're going to take the big stuff out and get ready to can it. Now, it's gotten late, so what I'm going to do is just strain this into a pot once I get everything out of it, and then we'll put it in the refrigerator overnight, and what will happen is the fat will solidify on the top in case you've never done it before. And when it does that, when you take it, oh goodness, about to make a mess. When you take it, well, I did make a mess. When you take it out of the refrigerator, you can skim all that not foam, good gracious, fat off of the top. And you'll have a nice, pretty chicken broth left. And if you've got chicken still left on your bones, you can save that chicken for another use for later, like a casserole or a chicken soup. Anyway, let me get all this out and we'll be right back. Okay, here we have this wire mesh strainer, and I have some cheesecloth in it. We're going to put this in right over the pan, like so, and then we're going to ladle the broth or the stock into there and let it strain. Here we go. I just moved things around so you can see better. And y'all, I'm sorry I simplify this so much, but there are people out there who have never canned, who have never done any of this. This is all new to them. And if they're like me when, goodness gracious, it's sticking to the ladle. If they're like me when I first started, I needed details. I needed the method, how you work through it, how you time things, and so that's why I simplify it. I've had people send me messages, friends on Facebook, and they're like, thank you so much for doing this. I can understand it. It makes it simple. It makes it easy, and I can see the logistics of how things run and are done in the kitchen. So that's why I do that. So if you're not new to canning, it may drive you crazy. You may have your own system and method, and that's okay. But I like to help out the newbies out there. We're just going to keep going until this is all strained. Look at that, y'all. This is still really hot, so I'm going to leave it on the counter. This is what I call a good chicken stock. And when we come back in the morning, we'll get it all canned up. Okay, my beautiful viewer friends, it's a new day. Good morning. And we've just taken the stock out of the refrigerator, and I don't have a lot of fat, but all this stuff you see on the top, we are going to skim it off. So let me grab a bowl and we'll do that. All right, we're just going to skim right around the top, and this is not normal. I don't know what happened, but normally you have a lot of hard fat right on the top, and you can just pull it off with a fork. But this is all we've got today. And you want to do this before you turn any heat on. That way it all stays right at the top. Okay, y'all, there's a little bit of this stuff right here on top. I'm not going to worry about that. I just got off most of this orange, more solid stuff, and it's that color because of the turmeric and paprika. All right, now what we need to do is just turn this on and bring it back up to a boil. And I would like to say too that here in my canner, whoa, let me take that out, don't I? Yikes. I have 3 inches of water heating, but my jars are also in here just to heat them up because I want them warm if I'm going to put hot broth in them. Don't want anything shattering. While we're waiting on this to heat up, normally when I do a broth, I do like to cook it long enough that it does reach that jelly consistency when it's cooled. And this was, like I said, right there on the edge of it, but that's okay. That wasn't my point of this broth, well, actually stock. My point was to make a really flavorful stock to prove my point that plain chicken breast boiled in plain water for 5 minutes does not make a good broth or a good stock, in my opinion. So anyway, we'll just keep waiting. That's so pretty. Okay, this broth is very hot, and I apologize for my dishwasher running in the background. I hope it's not too loud. This is almost up to a boil. I can't really let it boil because it will boil right over the edge of the pot, but it's good and hot. So I'm going to go ahead and take the jars out of the canner and get them over on the other counter so that we can pour the broth into them. Okay, y'all, you ready? Let's get this into jars. We're going to pour this into the jar and leave a 1-inch headspace. And y'all, I have to tell you, please forgive me if I keep saying broth, not if, but I know I do. I don't mean to. I know this is not broth, this is stock. But I don't know the difference. So, I said up to 1-inch headspace. And I already have my bowl of vinegar here. I've already got my lids washed. So we are good to go. Okay, I moved y'all down here where you can see a little bit better. This little tool is so handy. You don't have to have it, but it just makes measuring your headspace easy. That does not come up to 1 inch, so we're going to keep filling. There we go. Now I've canned for years without this little tool, but if you're new to canning, it is handy. 1 inch is usually right here at this first little rim of the jar. I'm going to dip my napkin down into some plain white vinegar and wipe the rim of each jar really well because chicken broth is greasy. Oh, I did it again, didn't I? Chicken stock is really greasy. Well, chicken broth is too, for that matter, but I've got vegetables in this. It's not broth, Janet. You know, in real life, I just interchange the two words. It doesn't matter, really, does it? Unless it does. Right? I'm going to put a lid on each one and a ring on each one, and I just twist until the jar starts turning on the towel when I'm pushing down. I push down just a little when it starts getting snug, and when the jar turns, that's as far as I go. Let's get these in the canner. Look at there, y'all. It's very rare in canning that you end up with the exact amount you need. Sometimes you have a little less and sometimes you have a little more, but I had the exact amount today. These are ready. Let's get the lids and rings on and then we'll pop them in the canner. All right, the jars are all in. Whoa. Try not to bang your lid like that. It's not good if you have a gauge on it. So let's get the lid on. Tighten opposite locks, but not all the way down, because you want to make sure your lid is sitting even before you do that. You don't want a big gap on one side and a little gap on the other like I've got. There we go. Down. You can tighten it down on opposite sides. I do it gradually. That. There we go. And then we'll bring this up and let it vent for 10 minutes. Y'all can't see what I'm talking about, can you? When steam starts coming out of this pipe, we'll let it vent. That's what you call venting, for 10 minutes. Okay, there is steam coming out of this vent. So we're going to set the timer for 10 minutes. All right, let's turn that off. And let's put on the weight. I use 10 pounds of pressure here where I am. Now, when this comes up to pressure, we will set the timer for 25 minutes because we're using quarts. If it was pints, we would just do 20 minutes. Okay, we are at 10 pounds of pressure. We're going to set the timer for 25 minutes. It has been almost 25 minutes. The timer is just about to go off. So we're going to turn off the eye. Turn off the timer. Now we're not going to do anything to this until the gauge shows 0 pressure. We will know it's at 0 pressure by reading the dial, and the hand will be sitting on that little metal post right there. But even once it comes down to pressure, I'm going to leave it for about 10 more minutes before I take the weight off. That way we'll know it's cool enough to go ahead and remove that. The pressure has come down to 0, but when I try to take this off, there's still a lot of noise. So I like to gently and slowly release that. There we go, no noise. So this is still really hot. I'm just going to leave it for a few more minutes, and then we'll open it up and vent it for a few more minutes. Let's go ahead and unlock it. Be careful because these are still really hot. And the canner is definitely still hot, so you don't want to burn yourself. Now what I will do is take an oven mitt and have it ready. There's still so much hot steam. Now please be careful. We're going to lift it away from us. And I'm just going to stick an oven mitt in here just to prop the lid open a little bit, and we're going to let this sit for about 10 minutes before we take the lid all the way off. Okay, let's go ahead and open this all the way. Give it just a few more minutes before we actually take out the jars. Those look great. Okay, are y'all ready to move these to the cooling rack? Let's go. There we go, my friends. There are our 6 quarts of chicken stock. Lots of flavor, lots of love. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I love it when you come and spend a few minutes with me. So until we meet again, may you be blessed. Love you guys.